Inhaling and exhaling until this intensity fills the outline of your body. A warm tingling glow filling the entire inside of your body. You can visualize an outline of your body sitting on the ground, on the chair. And I'd like you to visualize the other participants in the room, in the session. Keeping your eyes closed, visualizing a circle with every single participant doing this YTT, doing this yoga teacher training. And although we're in different spaces, we have different backgrounds, different circumstances that have brought us here, different intentions, that in this session, as we begin now, we are making a conscious decision to connect, to understand, we're going to inhale to lock this intention in. Exhale. We're going to take 2 more breaths. Nice and deep inhalation. Exhale. One last inhalation. And exhale. Softening your shoulders. And slowly open up your eyes. You're going to move into your shoulders. So just a really nice decompressing breath. So a lot of our tension we store in our shoulders, in our necks, and in our upper back. So just something as simple as shoulder rolls. When I did my teacher training, I remember feeling so we can move in the opposite direction. I remember going through sessions and sessions of, do you know yet what the Power Mantasana series is? So it's a series entirely sitting down. And I'm very much an active, dynamic person. And I felt we spent weeks on the series. And I felt in my head, like I personally didn't feel challenged. And then I realized because it was simple things like shoulder rolls. And as I'm speaking, I'm going to move my body and I'd like you just to mirror me so that we're moving as we're doing this. So you can put your hand in between your shoulder blades. And I didn't voice it because I knew, of course, I was doing my yoga teacher training. I needed to exercise patience. And of course, there was a reason that we were doing this. And now it's the foundation of my teaching because seemingly simple, yes. Release, and then move on to the opposite side. It's this that we need in every day. This is the integrative part. This is the stuff that we can do when we're talking, while we're having a conversation, when you're having a discussion, when you're making tea or talking to a friend. This is already, just in having this conversation, we are releasing the muscles that hold on to everything when we're stressed. Just here in the shoulders, in your neck. Okay, inhale. And exhale, release. Okay, so we're going to now move into an introduction circle. So it's the first time I am getting to meet you, and we only have 3 sessions, but we can move mountains in these 3 sessions, and I would like it. I would like it to be very engaging, and of course I have to share with you, but I have no slides to offer you. I can send you resources in a PDF, but everything that we're living in such a in such a period where information is so readily available, which is amazing. So I'm not going to regurgitate things that I've learned. I'm going to give you an experiential and accessible and integrative session. These are what the sessions are like. If you have questions, I can send you resources. But it's a conversation, essentially. I want my work with what I'm doing in my teaching is making mindfulness and meditation accessible to people who don't think that it's accessible, or it's not for them. People like my family, my nephews, my nieces, my mom, my dad, people who think that it is reserved for a special group of people who are flexible or who have a certain set of tools, and that is absolutely not the case. So yeah, it can be, I am quite aware that I don't want to go too new age. I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm just trying, it's a very much an introduction an introduction into. So that's me, that's my mission. I live in Cape Town 3 months of the year, and I spend the remaining time in London. And I am down this time, and I connected with Catherine through Taryn. So Taryn and I worked together and passed my details on to Catherine, and I'm very grateful for that connection. And just through, it's amazing, because I'm just looking at you, I'm like, oh, I had never wrote any of the stuff down. I haven't even gotten to anything that I've written down. I'm like, oh my word, we only have 1 hour sessions break and then another hour session. So whatever we don't get into the session, I will give it to you. I like to teach intuitively. I spent too many years following exactly what I've written down. And why I say this is because I was going to share with you my connection with Catherine and Taryn. So we feel that Catherine and I were talking about the yoga community in London and the yoga community in South Africa, and we don't find either very supportive, quite honestly. It's incredibly competitive. And they have these yoga groups that are very big on, Facebook yoga groups that are huge in London, and that's how you find work, and it's very catty. And I went onto those spaces to find a home away from home, and that's definitely not what we found. So that's what we're trying to do through the teaching as well. And we don't have all the answers. We know what we would like to do, but through this, I'd like to maybe find out together how we can, and in your introduction, I'd like you to say why you're doing the teaching. Are you just doing it to deepen your own practice? Is it something that you've been wanting to do for a while? Do you intend on teaching? And if so, is there a specific thing you'd like to focus on? Are you especially interested in kids or yin yoga or chair yoga or yoga for disabled? Just share something about why you're here today. And then of course you can also ask me questions. So I'd like you to say, just a brief introduction of who you are. That can include what you do or just what you're passionate about. One or the other, and why you're here. Okay, just those 2 things. So can I start with you? Okay, thank you.
My name is Ala. I got introduced to yoga about 3 years ago, also in the UK. But the scene wasn't that competitive. It was a small town, and it was a very normal, very down-to-earth kind of class. So it got me passionate, because obviously after seeing all the stuff on Instagram that I think somebody mentioned today, can really put you off, and you might think, oh my god, I will never get to this process. So the class that I attended at that time was really accessible, and the teacher was really just down to earth, and pretty much just passing on what you just said, just making sure that you don't think that yoga is only accessible to certain people who have this flexibility or strength to be able to perform asanas, right? Yeah. And also understanding that yoga is not only asanas. A lot of people think about it, and I find those commercial studios like that, pretty much. It's fitness. It's a fitness studio. It's not really about yoga anymore. So the reason why I've signed up for the course is primarily to progress my own practice, because I felt in the normal classes I hit the wall a little bit, and I struggle to find a teacher who will guide me through certain stages to get to particular asanas. I'm open to teaching. I wouldn't say it's my primary reason why I'm here, but I'm open to an idea of teaching.
Okay. That's fine. Hello, was it?
Yes.
Okay. So, so again, I don't know if you heard me say this, my first time doing like a live. So I'm going to try and just pass my laptop down. Obviously, it's important. How clear was that? Did you get everything? Okay, amazing. Maybe we can just do it like share the computer between 2 people. So we don't have to like pass it down to every single person, Okay, nice one.
I'm Lily, and I'm here because I love yoga, and like probably everybody else. But I've been doing it on and off for about 8 years now. I usually do it quite regularly for like a year and a half, and then kind of like fall through some like life stuff for just not the right time. And I've been getting back into it now for about 2 years in Cape Town, and I got a lot of people around me interested in it, like colleagues and stuff who would like come and do session with me at lunchtime. It would be like, would I be kind of teaching them what I know? But they will ask me a lot of questions of things that I was like, oh, actually, I'm not sure, or like, should I? So that made me really want to learn more about it and potentially be able to actually make a living out of it.
That's fun. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Amy, originally from the Eastern Cape, and I guess started practicing there, and same as what Alice said, a super small studio, small town in the Eastern Cape, so like very small community based. So yeah, I fell in love with it then, I would say, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years ago, maybe. But also sort of, I practiced at least 2 to 3 times a week, but primarily here to deepen my practice as well. Teaching's like a bonus if I ended up somewhere where I maybe had nothing else to do, or a community that was open to learning, I would be open to teaching. And then also, I've sat Vipassana in the past, and I've done the Art of Living, but I've never continued those practices. So for me, yoga is more of like an active thing, and I'm quite interested to integrate all three and sort of, yeah, learn how to do that and integrate all three into my everyday life. Very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just tell them.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Francesca. I'm Italian. I moved in Cape Town 3.5 years ago. It was very hard in the beginning when I moved here, because before I was doing completely different life. I was traveling a lot. I was working on a boat, and when I moved here, I actually was very hard. And I think that's when I found yoga, and that's really helped me. Like really helped, like make me feel so good, and helped me a lot during my pregnancy as well. And I don't know. I just want to kind of share this love that I got for yoga. Like I just love it so much, and yeah, really helped me.
Amazing.
With my dog. I'm not really with that. But yeah, no, really, like helped me in a very hard moment. Like, so I think that's such a gift that you can give to people.
Thanks so much, Francesca. I was going to say as well, because we've moved through 5 people now already, but we have half of the task still to go. This is our practice of meditation or mindfulness has already begun. Just in listening to what your fellow trainees have to say. It's so easy for the mind to wander. So catch yourself there. And something I know that it's hard. So sometimes I'll doodle. So I encourage you to. That's also part of the reason I said bring your journals. Write down some stuff that you're hearing, because it might not be easy. It's easier than listening sometimes. So I will, just a note that I am aware that we are a big group of people, so already the practice has begun.
Should we let someone online go, or should I just go?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, so I'm Christina. I'm actually from Zimbabwe. I arrived in Cape Town a week ago today. So I started doing yoga, I think 5 years ago. At the gym that I used to go to, they used to have a session every Friday, yoga. And yeah, I used to go to that. And then I also did a meditation group. There was one, because I'm from a very small place in Zimbabwe, so barely, everyone. It's a small community. So what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, I probably do want to teach yoga, but also I had something I wanted to say and I forgot. I forgot it.
Was it maybe something to do with what you do, what you're passionate about, or a stream of yoga that you're particularly interested in teaching maybe, or just practicing, experience, history?
Yeah, I don't know. I've completely lost my train of thought. But yeah, I am obviously here to learn more about yoga, and with the intention of teaching one day and possibly having my own studio.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes, nice one.
Oh yeah, and maybe I've just finished school, so I'm only going to uni next year. So that's also why I'm here to, have the free time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thanks. Thank you for moving to that.
Maybe one of those like trays.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Yeah, we've got the person that's there's reason why I decided to go for yoga is similar to the one here, just to get better and if the opportunity arises and maybe become a yoga teacher, but was more about I use yoga as a very like I wanted to be very pragmatic because I'm I can read a lot, learn a lot, and and I understand the concept, but when it comes to actually apply it to your life, to have it like rooted into your daily life, I think it's I found it. I wanted to stay away from any type of theory. Like it had to be like practical, like done by doing. But at some point, I realized that I couldn't go any further. Well, my discussion with the teacher or with the other students were limited because I didn't know about the theory. So actually, being here with other people and learning together is basically it's going to help me to get my own practice better and maybe teach you one day. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. don't be shy about saying if you want to be a teacher. Just own it.
Hello guys, I can see you, can't see me. My name is Inka. I'll make my long story short, but like very, I don't know, millennial, like this is where it goes back to. Like, the world's in a little bit of a weird place and you want to do something, and like if I have kids one day, I don't want to have kids because the world is ending. And I thought from like when I was in school that, I'm going to be a scientist, I'm going to show people the facts, make them become vegans, make them, all the things you think are gonna change the world a little bit. And I did all that, and then last year I actually found a job doing COVID tests, which really changed my life, and I'm here, so it's a good thing now. And through that, I was sort of having this realization that like I should be doing something that I enjoy, not because I think it's going to affect other people. Like I need to do something that I wake up to every day and I want to do, and I'm still young. And then I was actually almost died like a month ago in a car accident. I rolled my car like 6 times, and my life did flash before my eyes very briefly. And the first thing I thought when I got out of the car is, I don't want to be a scientist anymore. I don't want to work in a lab. I want to love my body and just wake up every day and want to feel good. And obviously, also like being a woman and with your body types, like I've never been a particularly flexible, like fit or person. And the only time in a gym or in like an exercise group that I feel comfortable is doing yoga and like being supported by the teachers. And I just thought, if I can offer that to the world and to other people, then like why am I still doing what I'm doing? So I literally called Kathy the day after that. So I was like, it's gonna help. And it's the best decision I've ever made. So I'd love to teach, but also for me and I also what you're saying is, I think I learn better by doing something and like being fully involved. Like with yoga, you go to classes and you do stuff, but we never have time to spend 6 weeks like focusing on one thing, and that's what I'm really excited about. Not think about anything else. Like yoga. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think so. Okay, cool.
Is there a pop-up at the
Yeah, I
top?
know what it says. A gift from. Is this the exit button? Must
Okay.
get on. My name is Yvette and I'm from Cape Town. So there's a few reasons why I wanted to do the course. One of the main reasons is obviously because I feel I've got very bad posture and I would like to improve my body and my health and my posture and stuff like that. So that's one of the main reasons why I want to do the course, and also knowing how to do that. Because when you do online stuff, and when you go to a class, nobody tells you like, okay, because you like this, you must do that, and then you need to do. It's just a set practice, and you can't really discuss things in a more level class. So that's why I want to do this, so that I can learn how to do that. And then the other reason is because I love yoga. My passion is dancing. So that's why I want to like integrate the yoga with the dancing.
And I've done quite a few dancing workshops with lots of different people. And what I noticed was after certain workshops and classes, my body didn't feel good. So that made me think, like, are the things that I'm learning, is it good for me? Should I know what I need to do in order to not have, like, because I also had the opportunity to teach beginners classes. So I want to be able to teach people the right thing.
Yeah.
And also when people ask me questions, but I don't know, because I didn't want that situation. So I want to be able to say, no, well, you see, what I was taught in yoga talk, if you put foot here, so that's kind of like, wow, yeah, that's why I'm doing the class. And also because it's lots of fun. So far, it's like lots of fun and it's very cool. So yeah, I'm very glad to do that.
Thank you so much for sharing so openly, and like, and you know, that's that you'll find it's only your second day. Just sharing honestly creates. Honestly, I don't even have the word for it, but the platform that creates just for the rest of your 6 weeks, you're already setting that such a strong day. Third day, sorry, my bad. Sorry.
On Friday night.
Yeah. No, it's Friday. That must have been killing you the first. Okay, please, can you share with us? Are you in the street?
Sorry.
Yes, no, I'm here.
Here we go.
I'm here with you. Yeah. I'm Cheryl. Hi. Akila, you're bunking, eh? I see you. So I've always loved yoga and meditation, mindfulness, and about 20 years ago I did TM, and I loved it. And I was just doing yoga sort of, you know, as we all had in the studio, whatever. And then about 6 years ago, I did inner engineering with Sadhguru. And it's like, well, I thought it's life-changing. And he explains it, you know, it's a technology, it's a method. And if you practice it and if you really commit to your sadhana, it absolutely changes you. And I experienced that. And still carried on doing my other normal yoga. And then I got divorced 6 years ago, which was a huge thing for me. And if it wasn't for all the TM and the inner engineering and the brain cleanse and the yoga that I was doing, I don't think I would have survived it as I did. It's just like impossible. And then I started dating a guy that lives in Mauritius. So he would come here on business and I would go there to visit and I would have my mat and do my practice. And then one of the wives or girlfriends or strangers or people would say, oh, do you mind if we join? Do you mind if you come and can you, And so then I thought, it's quite a responsibility. If I'm going to do this, I would really like to know that I'm doing it correctly, that I can actually help somebody. Then we had COVID, and I thought, well, this is amazing. If I survive COVID, I'm going to do a teacher training so that I can say, this is the good thing for me that came out of COVID. And then if I go there and I spend 2 or 3 months there, I can teach and I can change my life. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. What is TM?
So
Transcendental meditation.
I was just going to come in there because I was wondering, because we've mentioned 3 different modalities there, but those 3, we're going to come back to them in the discussion because we have a whole section.
Transcendental meditation, yes.
And then we can just touch on all the different, because of course we're talking about meditation, and there are very many streams of meditation, and of which transcendental meditation is one. So, okay, how are we doing over there? Okay, amazing. So I'm gonna turn the camera on, and I'm gonna ask Akila if you can go first, and we're gonna go across the screen. Angie, Lerato, and then Nagar. Am I saying your name correctly? Okay, amazing. If you can share with us, starting with Akila. Thank you.
Hi. Not bunking. I'll be back next week. But I'm Akila from Cape Town, and I used to practice yoga at an ashram with my mom growing up and also practice meditation, but kind of lost touch with it when I went to varsity and then into adulthood, wasn't really invested in it. And I've been trying to get back into it now because my studies and my work have been very much like a lot of head work. So it's nice to do something that kind of brings you back into your body. But I've tried a number of studios in Cape Town and Johannesburg, and it's no judgment of the studios, but I just haven't felt a pull to come back and continue at any one place. So now I'm kind of just doing this practice. I mean, this training to take my practice into my own hands in a sense and not have to rely on someone else. But one day I would like to teach. I'm definitely not there yet, and I don't think I'll be ready after just one training. But I think I'd like to do something more like yin yoga and with a strong focus on breath work and meditation, because it really was all three that kind of did the trick for me. So I'd want to share that. Thank you.
And then I think it was Angie, if you could share with us, please.
Hi, everybody. My name's Angie. I started yoga only about a year ago, so I'm quite new to it. I used to do dancing. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but it was called Nia, and it's also, they taught it in South Africa. And I loved it, but my teacher was quite unreliable, and she ended up dropping classes a lot, and I kind of got lost along the way, and I didn't do any exercise after that. And then I found yoga in a really difficult time when my boyfriend and I were separated because of COVID, and I was jobless and without my car and living with my parents again, and I needed something for myself. So I started doing yoga just about every day, half an hour, 20 minutes. And it's completely changed my views as well. I'm starting to feel one with my body, and no longer that I've got pieces that I'm trying to change. I think that in modern society, girls are really rammed with this idea that yoga for your butt and yoga for your arms and whatever, constantly trying to change a piece of yourself. And I think I'm so sick of it. And finding yoga, I feel like I'm being taught to move as one and just treat my body as something strong and really beautiful, and I would love to teach. I think not so much if I could teach somebody how to do a beautiful pose or a really extensive pose, but more so just to really respect your body and to feel as one, and to stop treating it like an object. I would love to teach children and girls just like me, all ages. Thanks.
Hello. I'm Lerato. I teach English as a foreign language in Mozambique. Okay, I don't know what to say or where to start, but I went to varsity and I did marketing, but I don't know why I did it, because I actually don't like it, and it's just something I don't want to do in life. And yeah, so from there I've been doing dance, all sorts of things, but I've just been unable to finish anything that I start. And I've realized that I'm a bit unaware of who I am, and I don't understand myself. I don't know who I am and all of that. So I started doing a bit of yoga and meditation. It's been 2 months, but since I started doing it, I've started feeling a bit good about myself, and I feel like I'm moving towards something that I would actually want to do for a long time. And if I could be able to practice more and maybe change my own life through yoga and meditation, then I could be able to teach someone else and maybe help them find whatever it is that they're looking for, or get them to be towards themselves. Like I would love to be one with myself, like Angie says. Thank you.
Thanks, Lerato.
And then Nagar, I think they're the last one to share with us.
Hi, can you hear me?
And we can hear you, yeah.
Okay. I can't see you. Oh, okay. So my name is Negar. I'm in Hamburg in Germany, and I haven't been doing yoga for a long time actually. I started doing it again with the pandemic, and I can very much relate to what Lerato and Angie just said. For me, it was also something that really, I think, kind of saved me. I was also in a very difficult situation at some point during the pandemic, and also got infected at some point, and it really helped me with the recovery a lot. And I think for me, so many things actually went through my head, Monique, when you started talking about what your focus is, and the whole issue of inclusion and all of that. I think for me personally, I grew up as a child of a refugee family in Germany. For me, discovering that things like mindfulness and awareness and all of that could be part of my life as well was a big discovery, because it just wasn't something that would happen in my family or in the communities that I grew up, and we just had other things to deal with and lots of struggles and so on. And so I think for me, this is still a journey to kind of realize that these things are not there just for certain people, and that I could also have those kind of things in my life. So I think that's my main, my main motivation for this training. I'm not so much looking at teaching it necessarily. I would love to integrate parts of it in what I do with regards to dance, and I work with youth and so on. But at the moment, I don't see myself as a yoga teacher. I don't think I'm there at all. But yeah, that's.
Nagar, thank you so much for sharing with us. That's such a powerful way to end just what you said about that it's not reserved for certain people. And that really is, that's the fundament really. Yes,
they haven't.
Veronica.
Well done, Amy. Okay, I did notice that. So we've just realized there's one person. I did notice initially, but they haven't.
Oh, didn't she say she was feeling sick? Sorry.
Okay, so is that what she said on the Amazing. Great, excellent. Because I was watching for people coming into the group,
she was
to admit.
well earlier. She said we have excused until around 4. I promise I'll check recordings and leave that ASAP. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we should just send.
When it's 4:15,
Everything will be recorded. We'll go on a break in 25 minutes, and then I'll check in with her then. So, okay. So how I structure what we go through is what, why, and how. So what is meditation? Why do we want to learn about it? What are the benefits? What is science saying about this? And how to begin a practice. So my takeaway for the session is there's a very big emphasis, especially because it's our first session, on discussion. So I feel like that is something I wanted to open with, just to manage your expectations in terms of what we were going to do over the next 2.5 hours. The most important thing is to connect, to understand, to have, my grounding word is compassion. So that's what the first session is. And we're going to go through theory and philosophy in the next 20-25 minutes. We can talk about how long you want your break to be, and then we can work around that. And then we'll come back and we'll go into the studio, and we'll just go through 2 breathing techniques, and I'll talk you through 2 guided visualizations. Okay, so what is meditation? You'll find many definitions. Ultimately, what it is, it's a practice. It's a practice of the mind. It's an internal practice. What is the difference between meditation and mindfulness? So this is a very big one. And I was teaching it and got asked. I was teaching both meditation and mindfulness. In fact, felt quite confident with both, but wasn't able to explain what the difference is. So until recently, anyway. Mindfulness it's observation.
It's an awareness without judgment, ultimately. So there are two grounding words there. An awareness without judgment, 2 points, awareness and judgment. Whereas meditation it's an inward practice. It is, I like to think of it as a formal, in a very structured way of looking at it. Meditation is more of a formal, personal practice, whereas mindfulness is something that you can engage in 24/7, anywhere, anytime, with your eyes open, whilst you're talking. There is mindful eating, mindful listening, engaging or navigating social media mindfully. You're not switching off, you're not closing your eyes. It is an integrative practice. So how I like to explain it to in an introduction to mindfulness is, this is my quote, so don't just like put that as a quote of mine, but mindfulness is integrative meditation. Where with mindfulness, you need to carve out, with meditation rather, you need to carve out that space for yourself. That includes breathing techniques where you're taking that space either in a group or by yourself for a set period of time. Whereas mindfulness is a lot more forgiving. There's a lot more room. And I like to think that, or I've started to think rather, because mindfulness is a very 21st century sort of term. We've only coined this in the more recent period in the yoga field. And I felt it was more a way to make meditation more accessible and to kind of open it without disrespecting the sacred nature of what meditation is. So meditation is also a skill. So this is something I'd really like to emphasize. It's a skill, and you practice it, you exercise it like any other muscle. And I like to use the analogy of a marathon. If you were training for a marathon, you wouldn't expect to run a marathon after training for a week or even a day. And sometimes you expect that. In a 6-week training, you're going to hope that by the end of 6 weeks, you can sit for an hour. And sometimes that will be possible. It is possible, but you have to practice gentleness with yourself. Because you're not only doing your training, you're living your life, you have other responsibilities, you have things, and you're navigating, and you're pulling this all together. And I can relate so much to just wanting to do, when you're committing to something and to say, okay, by the end of the 6 weeks or by the end of my training, I thought that without a doubt, I was going to be able to meditate anywhere. And that brought a lot of suffering. Because I was so frustrated with myself after a week, which is in hindsight ridiculous. So just to keep that in mind, to use the marathon analogy, when you're training your mind, you're training a muscle, and Harvard does, I'll send you this resource list. I haven't decided if I want to send it in the WhatsApp group. I don't know how you're interacting there. Haven't tapped into it too much, or if you want me to send you a PDF after every week or after every session. There is a study done by the Harvard Gazette, and it's done over 8 weeks. And this is the minimum period that you can look at. And it's 8 weeks of solid, committed hours to your practice. So that I like to give the Harvard study and the marathon analogy just as a way to manage your expectations and to invite a gentleness and a grace into the beginning or the introduction as you're moving through learning about breathing and meditation. I know that everyone mostly has a background in yoga and quite a far-reaching history with yoga and meditation. Would you say you're more comfortable with meditation or yoga? Yoga. And what about you guys? Like, if you're more comfortable with yoga, can you raise your hand? Okay, so that is meditation something that you're interested in deepening? Okay, so what is it? Simply, it is a practice of the mind, of going internally. And why? In a very philosophical explanation, it's a coming home. When you close your eyes, it doesn't happen immediately, but after establishing a practice, nothing, no one, no situation can can change your inner. You know, people, certain situations will trigger emotions and they'll trigger thoughts, but that's external to you. And finding a meditation practice has been the most grounding thing for me, to a point where it almost frightens me, because why does it frighten me? Because it's so powerful. Because it's so powerful, and we're taught almost in every sphere that we aren't, and especially as women, and especially in a country like South Africa. So, I mean, I almost feel inadequate teaching this now, just saying that. But yeah, thank you for giving me this platform. I'm suddenly feeling very emotional. Yeah, thank you. And I do emphasize that introduction. Yeah. So and that's what I would like for you is that coming home, that feeling when you're, especially because the pandemic has just been like a high tide, just washing everything. And it, as much as it can, it is traumatic, and it has been traumatic, and it is at the same time, it's a duality, it's an enormous cleansing at the same time. And it just uproots everything. And in the midst of it all, meditation allows you that grounding within yourself. And it starts with your breath. And I will always bring it back to the word of gentleness, because frustration has no place in your practice. It can only set you back. It can only hinder you. And always just to remind your ego, just to sit out, there is a place for it, and there is a place for it in your practice. I always used to think that I almost villainize the ego, but there is a place for it in our lives. It's just not in learning. And especially when it's coming home to yourself. You know how we're always looking for, and also it's because we're taught to look for validation or proof or happiness outside of ourselves, and we do find it in food, in places, in people. But the foundation of that is you, and you find that in through your meditation practice. So a lot of what I'm going to say now is it is theory, it is part philosophy, it is part definition, it's experiential. And then the second part, because every time I hear myself saying this, I'm like, okay, but then when do we get to the how? And that is what we'll do after the break, when we go into the studio, and we'll just start with the 2 gentle breathing techniques. So Karen said that you went through the ANS system, the autonomic nervous system, briefly today, did you? Okay. So before that, did you know anything about your autonomic nervous system? Okay, amazing. So I only learned about it through learning about anatomy and about the body through my yoga practice. And so the autonomic nervous system controls everything in our bodies. It controls your respiratory rate, it controls your cardiac, your cardiovascular function, your digestion, your sexual arousal. It controls everything. It's split into two systems, your parasympathetic system and your sympathetic system. Are we familiar with those two? Hey? Yes. So we have your sympathetic system, and that's your fight or flight. Mm-hmm. You may have heard it. And then you have your parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest. And I really love you can hold on to those two, because I still remember to this day, like R and R and F and F, like fight or flight. Oh, rest and digest, not R and R. R and D, rest and digest. But you have that sort of that rhyming that helps you remember between which is which. And has anyone seen the Heal, a documentary on Netflix called Heal? No. I'm so excited to put together a resource list for you. So it looks at meditation. Oh my goodness. If you have time tonight, it's 90 minutes long.
Because there's another documentary, it's like the intro to meditation, and they do it with you.
Yeah, no, so that is Headspace, isn't it? Thank you. It is Headspace, which is good. And it's amazing. I can't believe Netflix is doing this.
I know, it's very surprised.
Yeah. Like, I know you're trying to do this to be trendy, but also thank you. Because also that is something, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, they have become buzzwords. So, pardon?
What was it called?
So the one that walks you through, it's like a series
on like a mini series.
But it's an app as well.
It's an app.
Yeah.
So it was the app that collaborated. So Headspace is an application that teaches you how to meditate, and they collaborated with Netflix to create this. I think it's a 4 or 6 part mini series, and I would recommend it. It's well done. It's very well done, and it's done for a beginner. So it's very thoughtful and very informative. Heal will reiterate everything I will tell you today.
Would you heal like a heel or heal like
Oh.
H-E-A-L.
Yeah, so heal. And so going back to the autonomic nervous system, we have the parasympathetic system and the nervous system. It's all going to make sense when I'm talking about the body now. So back in the day when we were hunting, for example, I'm going to use this example. Have you heard this one before?
Yeah.
So the fight or flight, right? When your body recognizes that you're in danger, your mind has sent signals that you're in danger, it will release cortisol. This is beautiful. Why? Because cortisol gives you energy and it increases your focus. And that's exactly the 2 things you need when you're in potential danger. Energy to run, focus to know exactly what you're doing and where you're going. This sounds amazing, and it is amazing, but it's not sustainable. That is released. The cortisol is released so that you can use it for that X amount of time and then rest. So find your safe haven, rest and renew and rejuvenate. It is great, but in a modern context, not, because we're using it unsustainably. And we feel this in brittle nails, dry skin, hair falling out, anxiousness, nervousness. And that's because our mind is telling our bodies that we are in constant danger all the time, when we're in traffic, when we're complaining, when we feel threatened, because it does feel threatened when you get into an argument with somebody. You feel, sometimes you almost feel jittery, you're like, just having, or being late. You immediately feel that like you're almost hyper aware of what's going on. So that's cortisol just flowing through your veins in a very dangerous way, because our bodies and our muscles were never meant to handle that level of cortisol in almost perpetually. From the moment we wake up, it's what are we doing, and it's always where everything revolves around time. So, and that directly is linked.
We're often scared where we're living.
Thank
Hearing
you for saying
something
that.
outside the door, hearing something outside the window.
Oh my word, of course.
Non-stop.
It's just so natural, you don't think about it.
So I don't know if you heard that, but we were saying that even outside of stressful situations that we almost create ourselves, but just being
alive.
When we're in dangerous, like when you're at home. When we're at home and you hear a sound, for example.
You're supposed to feel safe at home, and you hear a noise outside the window. I'm terrified. Outside the door, I'm terrified.
Terrified is exactly the word as well. It really is.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You go from
wake up,
year to
passing, can't sleep, make tea, the lights on.
And that's funny that you say tea, because again it's that association with slow living. It's when you're having chamomile tea to calm your rate down. And so what that does, that was a perfect segue, thank you. Into when you have tea, you're activating your parasympathetic system. You're slowly telling your body that you are in fact okay. And when you have, have you ever had it when something happens or if you're in shock, somebody gives you like a little glass of sugar water?
Yes.
So the sugar water is to replace. So when you get that cortisol, you're making this expenditure of energy. So you're losing that energy. So the sugar water replaces. It's an old school. It's an old school method, yes, to just replace what your body is losing in terms of that energy expenditure. So why are we talking about the ANS? Why are we talking about a parasympathetic system and a sympathetic system? Because that's why mindfulness and meditation has made the forefront in a modern lifestyle, because we're seeing that completely relying on medicine it's not sustainable, and it's not although pharmaceutical companies are benefiting from it, I don't think we really thought further. We didn't think to this point where it wasn't in fact going to, we're just entered into a very vicious cycle. So it has taken the interest of scientists, and amazingly so, because I always felt like it was this esoteric, airy-fairy, insubstantial, and even just teaching it, I always felt like I needed to say that I've studied cognitive behavioral therapy. I really felt like I even needed to like deepen my voice or the way I carried myself, because I felt that my profession was insufficient because it wasn't that. But now that's what's amazing, being supported by Cambridge, the University of Cambridge, Harvard University, to have the backing, a meditation study being done by a Harvard University is massive. It means that you sitting at home and sitting where you are, we're on the right track. So meditation and mindfulness, those practices activate your parasympathetic system. It reminds your ANS that you're not in danger. And although it's disconnecting that fire up of the sympathetic system every time you think that you are in danger. Breathing techniques, yoga, mindfulness, these are integrated ways that you remind your mind and your body that you are okay, so that you can decrease. So when you're doing something as simple as a breathing technique, I mean, this blows my mind, because we've been breathing since since the very beginning. And we know that you can stay without water for quite a while, you can stay without food for X amount of days, but you can't hold your breath for, free divers can't go even, more than 20 minutes. Nothing. You can't, this is the only thing we can survive with the least amount of time without. I know I said a bunch of words there, but I feel like I got what I was saying. They weren't in the right order, but you got what I was saying. So when we're practicing that breath work, your cortisol levels go down. And it happens like this. It's mind-blowing. And at that same time, you're just bringing your ANS into equilibrium. And the more we associate, so if you know that you get stressed in certain situations, you can bring that integrative practice into maybe getting up in the morning, attaching it to a behavior or something that you already do, getting into the car, as you start the car, just taking 1 minute, just there. And if traffic is something that causes stress, immediately you have that rewiring of our brains. We have the most incredible technology, and that's our minds and our bodies. When just in the pandemic, I try to think about the invention of technology and electricity, and already like my mind just totally flips out. I'm like, it's amazing that we're having this conversation right now. It like blows my mind. But then at the same time, I'm like, hello, this is our bodies and our minds it's the most intelligent piece of technology we will ever have access to. And we have it all the time. And we have had it all the time, and we will. It is the one constant. So that's why meditation, mindfulness, and yoga is so exciting, because it's these practices that help us be better in our bodies and use our bodies and our minds in not a more efficient, but in a better way, or in whatever way that looks like for us. Okay, so, oh yes.
I love that. Help us be better in our bodies.
That's one. Full quote over there. So in bringing down those cortisol levels, it also increases serotonin. So something as simple as a 1 minute exercise increases a neurotransmitter that sometimes you might need to run 20 minutes and then you feel real good. But if you just stay where you are, so when you're feeling really jittery sometimes, not jittery, but like anxious, and you really want to expend energy, you feel like you want to go running or you want to go swimming, but the sun sets and you've already, there's not much apart from if you want to do like a HIIT exercise in your indoors. But a 5 minute breathing exercise is as powerful as a 20-minute run in terms of rebalancing your cortisol and your serotonin. So serotonin is the happiness, in inverted commas, the happiness hormone. It's the neurotransmitter that's released when you're sleeping, when you're exercising, when you're meditating. And
serotonin. Yes. So so you know that we have these very big claims, like especially because meditation and mindfulness has become such a popular topic. So you have these very big headlines that will be yoga helps with stress, or breathing techniques reduces anxiety. And the one that hurts the most actually is meditation helps with depression, which is such an enormous claim. It is so, but how? So I'll save depression for when we have, I'm just quite aware of the time, but or mental health, how breathing techniques or yoga can help with mental health, but how does it do that? How does it link back? And we'll just briefly look at some of the claims that are quite popularly advertised. So it lowers your blood pressure, we know this. It increases your digestion, which I was like, how does it increase? I mean, we know this, and I know certain asanas and positions that will help, but how exactly is that working? So it helps us falling asleep quicker, we know this, so it helps decrease anxiety. But my problem with these claims is that it's just decrease and then the problem, but there's no, like how? So I'll start with the sleep. How does it help you fall asleep quicker? So
I can tell you does not.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. And I'm very happy. I'm thankful that you said that, because I'm so passionate about meditation and mindfulness. I'm also very aware of sharing it as a panacea, as if it is the cure for everything. And I must be very aware of this, because although I have found it to be helpful in certain areas, it isn't. It's not going to help in everything. You have to take what you're learning from this training and make it your own. You have to apply that to your own lifestyle, to your own personal context, your background, there's a whole unique set of circumstances that has created what is you. And it's important to take what you need from what you're learning and leave the rest behind, and not be too bothered about putting a square in a circle hole. You don't need to do that, because it will help with certain things and it won't, and we can make peace with that. So coming back to the how does it help you fall asleep quicker? So meditation is, when people say meditation helps with it, it's very interlinked with your breathing. So if you're breathing slower, you're activating your parasympathetic system. And the more you exercise your parasympathetic system, you're lulling your ANS into a state of calm. And when you're extremely calm, your mind can relax. And when your mind can relax, you can fall asleep a little bit easier. And it doesn't happen very quickly. It will happen over, sometimes it may take 40 minutes of breathing or meditation. It may take 30, and you may work that down to 5 or 5-10 minutes. How does it help with focus? This is something I found interesting, because it does help me focus. But I'm like, why? How is it helping me focus? When you're taking very deep breaths, so we're going to practice something called block box breath in our next in the practice session. And when you're taking deep breaths, you're exercising the elasticity of your lungs. So as you're stretching the elasticity, you're allowing more oxygen to come in your lungs. And the more oxygen you have in your lungs, the more oxygen you have in your brain. And so that increases your cognitive functioning and then allows you to focus more solidly. And that I found really, when I was looking these all up, I was like, this is amazing, because it helps so much for you. And it's so important to understand that just as you practice, I feel that the more you know about the method, the more effective that method can be. So how does yoga or meditation help with digestion? Again, it's amazing, because we have these big claims of meditation, but it's directly linked to your breathing. So when you're breathing, again, you're stretching the elasticity of your lungs. And when your lungs are expanding, it's pushing down on your digestive system. And when you're stimulating your digestive tract, you're activating your digestive process. And that's how you improve your digestive processing through breathing or meditation. Okay, yeah.
Like just I'm interested. Obviously, when you meditation and breathing also activate your parasympathetic system, which the sympathetic system stops you from digesting to take away or put energy into the place you need it. So surely, like, in terms of, besides the breathing and the physical mechanics, like, your body's actually telling you, like, hey, it's time to chill and digest your food and, like, don't worry about it.
You mean in
other way. What you say that mechanically helps, but also by being calm and not in a stressed out way, your body can
sending the energy.
Sending the energies.
Yeah. And that also, okay, we'll come back to that. I want to do, is Akila, are you fasting?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. I'd really like to, I hope we have time in the discussion, because we're talking about shifting energy from one system to the other, and we focus on conserving energy. And this is linked to intermittent fasting, which obviously isn't religious fasting, but the similar notions can be, shared across the two. So I wanted to speak to you about that, but share it and open it, because in a South African context, we have a massive Muslim population. We ought to know a little bit more about our fellow South Africans. Also, I'm trying to think of it feels really cheesy to say fellow South Africans. So if anyone thinks of anything else, I'd love you to let me know. Okay, so something else that science has amazingly made clear in the most recent years is that meditation increases the gray matter of your brain. So over 8 weeks of a meditation practice, you physically have control over the physiological composition of your brain through meditation. And that's like, okay, so what is the gray matter of the brain, and what function does it have? So the gray matter is the part of that controls your memory, it controls your decision making, it controls your self-control. So often when you're in addiction therapy, for example, a therapist will recommend a meditation practice, because in increasing the gray matter of your brain, you have more control. You increasing your capacity, your self-control capacity. There was one other, your speech. So it increases your capacity. Sometimes when you're feeling quite foggy and you, it's almost like words, mouth feelings, you can't quite get out what you're trying to say. And that's because because your gray matter potentially is low. I've crossed 2 wires there. The gray matter, it doesn't change depending on your mood. That's your focus. So when you're feeling foggy, meditation can counter that in increasing the oxygen in your brain and thereby increasing your focus. Sorry, I hope that wasn't, did you see that crossover, how I was connecting focus to gray matter, which is not the case. Okay, so 2 things in terms of starting a practice is, I've already shared with you, and I just like to bring it back home, is keeping in mind a gentleness and a grace in your practice. So we have the analogy of a marathon. So you are going to do, after the break, we are going to go into a practice, and to keep in mind that even if you can stay focused for 10 seconds, that is a win, and to rather celebrate having been able to focus for a short period of time than investing that energy in frustration. Because the energetic vibration of frustration is very heavy, and it can only limit and restrict your practice. So just to keep in mind how you would speak to somebody you love. So often somebody younger, like if you're teaching a child to meditate, how would you, if that child got it wrong, would you be frustrated? Would you express that frustration? You probably wouldn't. You'd have compassion. You'd show compassion towards them, and so you are deserving of that compassion as much as anybody else who would be on the receiving end of it. So we've covered a brief definition of what meditation is and why we meditate. So we looked at some of the benefits and a little bit about the autonomic nervous system and what's actually happening on a physiological level when we're meditating. Something that we will, I'm not going to do today, but next week, Saturday, we'll focus on the cognitive behavioral therapy processes and how that links to meditation. I wanted to do it today, but I'd rather focus on on a practice and a discussion. And because it is so interlinking, I'll save the CBT for next week. Okay, so we have, yeah, we've actually been going for quite a long time.
10 to 5.
Yeah, I'm going to say, what do you think about a 15-minute break?
Yeah.
A 15-minute break, and then we can come back. We can go, and then we'll meet in the studio. So I'm going to put the video. Thank you so much. I hope you could hear clearly. And we're going to be moving into the studio in a bit. I'll see you.